Chapter 1. Hollow Homecoming. The C-17 touched down at Fort Bragg with the gentlest kiss of rubber on tarmac, but Jared Johnston barely felt it. After 8 years and 3 tours in Afghanistan, his body had learned to sleep through mortar fire, sandstorms, and the bone-rattling turbulence of military transport. What kept him awake now was something softer, more dangerous: hope. He'd called Charlene from Bugram 2 days ago. The connection had been terrible, satellite delay making their conversation feel like talking to a ghost. "Coming home tomorrow," he'd said, watching his breath fog in the Afghan cold. Flight 237, landing at 0600 local. There'd been a pause, the normal lag, he'd told himself, before her voice came back. Okay. Not, "I can't wait," or "I love you," or "I've missed you so much." Just okay. But after 8 years of brief calls, delayed emails, and the grinding loneliness of separation, Jared had learned not to read too much into single words. Charlene had her own battles at home. He knew that. He'd deal with whatever distance had grown between them. They'd rebuild. They always did. Jared had met Charlene 12 years ago at a dive bar in Jacksonville, where she waitressed between community college classes. He'd been a newly minted private, cocky and stupid, and she'd been the prettiest thing he'd ever seen. Dark hair that caught the light like crow feathers, eyes that seemed to see right through his swagger to the scared kid underneath. Their first date had been miniature golf. Their second had been the emergency room after Jared tried to impress her with a motorcycle trick and broke his collarbone. She'd married him anyway, 6 months later, in a courthouse ceremony with 2 witnesses pulled from the DMV line next door. That was before the deployment that kept getting extended. Before the promises of just 6 more months turned into years. Before the Army owned more of him than she did. The dress blues felt strange after months in combat fatigues. Too tight across the shoulders, too formal, too much like a costume. But Jared wanted to do this right. He'd imagined this moment 1,000 times in the dark spaces between missions, walking through arrivals in his dress uniform, Charlene running into his arms, everything else falling away. The airport was nearly empty at 0600. A janitor pushed a wide mop across the linoleum. A businessman dozed in a chair, phone fallen onto his chest. The arrivals board flickered, updating destinations. Jared stood at the designated meeting point near baggage claim, his duffel at his feet, and waited. The morning light strengthened, turning the terminal windows from mirrors to portals. A few more people trickled in. A family reunion erupted nearby. Tears and laughter, and a little girl squealing "Grandpa." Jared's stomach began to tighten. He checked his phone. No messages. He tried calling. Straight to voicemail. The janitor had moved to a different section. The businessman was gone. New people came and went. None of them were Charlene. By 1,000, Jared's jaw ached from clenching. His mind ran through possibilities, each worse than the last. Car accident. Medical emergency. Something with her mother, who'd been sick last he'd heard, though that was 4 months ago. He stood there in his dress blues, a statue in the middle of American normalcy, feeling more exposed than he ever had in combat. At least in Afghanistan, he'd known where the enemy was. At 1015, he saw Maddie Gordon's Honda Civic pull up to the curb outside. Maddie lived 2 doors down from the house he and Charlene had bought right before his deployment, a small ranch with a fence he'd never finished building. Maddie was in her 60s, a retired postal worker who'd kept an eye on Charlene, or so she'd mentioned in the Christmas cards she'd sent him every year. She got out of the car slowly, like someone approaching a wild animal. Her face was grave. Jared walked outside, the automatic doors whooshing open, his duffel slung over one shoulder. "Mrs. Gordon," he said. "Jared." She wouldn't meet his eyes. In her hands was a manila envelope. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She asked me to give you this." The envelope was light. He took it, noting that his hands didn't shake. That was training. That was 8 years of keeping steady when everything went to hell. "Where is she?" "I don't know," Maddie said, and he believed her. "She came by my house 4 days ago. Said if you showed up, I should give you this." She was. Jared, she wasn't herself. She was scared. Scared of what? "I don't know." She wouldn't say. She just kept crying and saying she was sorry. Jared opened the envelope. Inside were 2 things: a set of keys on a keychain he didn't recognize, some tourist trap thing with Virginia Beach printed on cheap plastic, and a single sheet of paper folded once. He unfolded it. Charlene's handwriting, but shaky. Rushed. Jared, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this. He said you weren't coming back. He said you'd re-enlisted for another tour. He showed me papers. I didn't know what was real anymore. The house is his now. Everything is his. He changed all the locks. I'm staying with someone safe, but I can't tell you where. Not yet. He said if I contacted you, he'd. I called you 17 times this morning. He found out. He took my phone. Please don't come looking for me. Please just go. Start over. Forget about me. I've ruined everything. The keys are to a storage unit. 2247, Industrial Boulevard, Unit 341. I saved what I could of your things. Your medals. Your father's watch. Some photos. It's not much. I'm sorry it's not more. I loved you. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. S. Jared read it twice. Then a third time. Around him, the morning traffic of RDU International Airport continued. Cars pulling up, people hugging, life going on as if the world hadn't just tilted sideways. Jared. Maddie's voice seemed to come from far away. He looked up. His vision had gone strange, everything too sharp and too clear. Did you see anyone? Anyone around the house? A man. Maddie's face darkened. That man. Yes. Cletus Watts. He started showing up about 2 years ago. Said he was a friend from your unit. Said he was checking in on Charlene for you. I don't know anyone named Cletus Watts. I didn't think so, Maddie said quietly. By the time I realized something was wrong, he'd moved in. Just moved right in. And Charlene, she stopped talking to me. Stopped talking to everyone. Jared's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. 17 missed calls, all from Charlene's number, all between 05:45 and 06:15 that morning. Before he'd even landed, she tried to warn him. Take me home, Jared said. Jared, the note says. Take me home, Maddie. Chapter 2, Occupied Territory. The house looked exactly as Jared remembered it, except for everything that mattered. The lawn was overgrown, weeds choking out what had once been Charlene's careful flower beds. The fence he'd started building before deployment sagged in places, some posts missing entirely. Someone had painted the front door. It had been white. Now it was a muddy red that didn't match the shutters. But what made Jared's blood run cold was the truck in the driveway. A lifted Ram 2500, matte black, with custom rims and enough LED light bars to signal aircraft. Vanity plate, Alpha 1. He's home, Maddie whispered. Jared got out of the car. The morning had warmed into a humid North Carolina afternoon, the kind that made uniforms stick to skin. He walked up the driveway like he was approaching a compound, every sense hyper alert, cataloging details. Security camera over the garage, new. Ring doorbell, also new. The curtains were drawn, but he could see the flicker of a TV through a gap. He rang the doorbell. The camera's LED blinked red. Movement inside. Then the door swung open. Cletus Watts was not what Jared expected. He'd pictured some smooth operator, someone who could talk his way into a lonely woman's life. Instead, Cletus looked like he'd been built from spare parts at a gym. Overdeveloped upper body, skinny legs, the kind of artificial bulk that came from steroids and protein shakes. His face was all sharp angles and mean little eyes. He wore a tank top that said grunt style and had tattoos that screamed stolen valor, crossed rifles, a Punisher skull, infidel in Arabic script. Help you, Cletus said, looking Jared up and down. I'm Jared Johnston. This is my house. Cletus smiled. It was the smile of a man who'd been waiting for this moment. Negative boot. This is my house. Purchased it fair and square from a Charlene Johnston 8 months ago. Got the deed to prove it. You can't sell a house you don't own. Power of attorney, hero. Your wife signed everything over to me. Legal as sunshine. Cletus leaned against the doorframe. Tell you what, though, since you came all this way and you're wearing your fancy blues and all, I'll let you have one last look around. Say goodbye to the old place. Then you can fuck off. Every instinct Jared had screamed at him to put his fist through those teeth. But he'd learned patience in Afghanistan. Learned that the enemy who talks is the enemy who reveals. Appreciate that, Jared said evenly. He walked inside. The interior was worse than the exterior. The photos that had lined the hallway, their wedding, their honeymoon in Myrtle Beach, Charlene's college graduation, were gone, replaced by posters of women in bikinis draped over motorcycles. The furniture was different, cheaper, all black leather and chrome. The place smelled like cigars, and something chemical he couldn't identify. She redecorated, Cletus said behind him, closing the door. Women, you know, always changing their minds. One day she's all about you. Next day she's realizing what a real man looks like. Jared walked through the living room into the kitchen. More changes. The table where he and Charlene had planned their future was gone. In its place was a card table covered in beer cans and what looked like betting slips. Power of attorney doesn't give you ownership, Jared said. No, but it does give you access to bank accounts. And when those accounts are used to purchase property, well, Cletus grinned. Let's just say your wife wasn't very good with money. Made some bad investments. Had to sell the house to cover her debts. Lucky for her, I was willing to take it off her hands. Where is she? Gone. Left about a week ago. Said she couldn't handle the guilt of what she'd done to you. Real torn up about it. Cletus opened the fridge, grabbed a beer, didn't offer one to Jared. Between you and me? She was a lousy lay anyway. Cried too much. Jared's hands clenched. Cletus saw it and laughed. Go ahead, hero. Take a swing. But just so you know, he lifted his shirt, showing a gun tucked into his waistband. I got a concealed carry permit and a real good lawyer. You assault me in my own home, you're going away for a long time. And who's gonna find your wife then? You know where she is. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. Cletus took a long drink. Tell you what, Johnston. You walk away right now, I might let her go. Keep whatever scraps she's got left. But you start making trouble for me. Start digging into my business. I'll make sure you never see her again. And trust me, his smile widened. I got ways of making people disappear that even your military buddies can't track. Jared looked at him for a long moment. Studied him the way he'd studied Taliban commanders through rifle scopes. Memorized the patterns of his breath, the tick in his left eye, the way his fingers drummed against the beer can. I've seen your type before, Jared said quietly. Afghanistan's full of men like you. Big talk, no substance. Predators who only hunt the weak. Cletus's smile slipped. Difference is, Jared continued. Over there, we knew what to do with them. That a threat? No. Jared turned toward the door. That's a promise. He walked out, past the expensive truck, past Maddie Gordon's worried face in her idling car, down the driveway of what used to be his home. Behind him, he heard Cletus laugh. Run along, Boot. And don't come back. But Jared wasn't running. He was reconnoitering. And the mission had just begun. Chapter 3, Gathering Intelligence. The storage unit smelled like cardboard and regret. Jared stood in the 10x10 space, surrounded by the archaeological remains of his former life. 3 boxes, neatly labeled in Charlene's handwriting. Medals, photos, personal. That was it. 8 years of service, 12 years of marriage, reduced to 30 square feet of climate-controlled concrete. He opened the photos box first. Their wedding day. Charlene in a simple white dress from David's bridal, Jared in his dress uniform. Both of them so young they looked like kids playing dress-up. There was one of his father, Granville Johnston, in his own uniform from Vietnam, pride and worry mixed on his weathered face. He'd died 5 years ago. Never got to see Jared make sergeant. Never got to see any of this. More photos. Charlene at the beach, laughing as a wave caught her off guard. The two of them at a Tar Heels game, bundled in blankets. Her college graduation, Jared in the crowd, home for 2 weeks between deployments. And then the photos changed. The later ones were different. Charlene looked thinner, her smile strained. In one, taken maybe 2 years ago based on her shorter haircut, she was at some kind of barbecue. There were other people in the background, but one man stood out, tall, overdeveloped, wearing a tactical vest like he was playing soldier. Cletus Watts. Jared pulled out his phone and took a photo of the photo. The medals box contained what he'd expected. His Bronze Star, his Purple Heart from that IED outside Kandahar, his Afghanistan campaign medal, his Good Conduct medals. All of it neatly arranged, carefully preserved. Charlene had taken care of these, even as everything else fell apart. The personal box held his father's watch, some letters Charlene had written during his first deployment, and his phone. Not his current phone, but the old one he'd left behind, the one that had died halfway through his first tour and he'd never bothered to replace. He turned it on, surprised to find Charlene had kept it charged. The screen flickered to life. There were messages, old ones, from early in his deployment, but also new ones, from numbers he didn't recognize, sent over the years through some automatic backup service. He scrolled through them. From unknown number, 3 months ago. Payment received. Next installment due on the 15th. From another unknown, 6 months ago. SJ confirmed for transfer. Paperwork finalized. From a third number, 1 year ago. New account established. Routing number follows. Someone had been using his identity. Moving money, establishing accounts, doing God knew what else while he was overseas with limited communication and no way to monitor his credit. Jared sat down on one of the boxes, his mind working through the implications. Cletus hadn't just stolen his wife, he'd stolen his entire life. And he'd done it methodically, over years, with planning and precision. This wasn't about an affair. This was about identity theft, fraud, and something bigger. His phone buzzed, his current phone. Unknown number. He answered. Johnston. Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a woman's voice, whisper quiet. Jared? Is this really you? Charlene. Oh God. Oh God, you're really home. I tried to warn you. I tried to call. I got your calls. I got your note. Where are you? I can't, he's watching. He always knows. He has cameras, Jared. Everywhere. He tracks my phone, my credit cards, everything. I'm using a burner from a gas station, and I only have a few minutes. Tell me where you are. I'll come get you. No. The word came out sharp, panicked. You don't understand. He's not alone. There are others. They've done this before. Target military wives, isolate them, take everything. They have lawyers, accountants, people in the system. If you come looking for me now, her voice broke. They'll make both of us disappear. Charlene, listen to me. I've dealt with insurgents, terrorists, people who make Cletus look like a mall cop. Whatever he's threatened you with, whatever he's done, we can handle it. He has files on you, Jared. On your unit, your deployments, everything. He said if I talked, he'd send information to the Taliban. Names, locations, mission details. He said he'd get people killed. Jared's blood went cold. That was treason. That was beyond theft, beyond fraud. That was the kind of thing people got executed for. Did he show you these files? Yes. On his laptop. I saw reports, photos, things I know I shouldn't have seen. He said he got them from someone at Fort Bragg. Someone with access. An insider. That complicated things. Okay, Jared said, his mind already shifting gears, moving from anger to analysis. Okay, you stay where you are. Stay safe. I need you to tell me everything you remember about Cletus. Where he's from, who he associates with, any names, any details. Jared, you need to just let this go. Please. I've already ruined your life. Don't let me get you killed too. Charlene. He kept his voice gentle but firm. I've been fighting for 8 years. I'm not stopping now. Not when the enemy's on my own doorstep. Now talk to me. Tell me everything. She did. Over the next 43 minutes, Charlene painted a picture of a sophisticated operation. Cletus Watts, likely an alias, had first appeared at a support group for military spouses. He'd presented himself as a veteran, played the understanding friend, offered to help with home repairs. Slowly, methodically, he'd isolated her from her support network, convinced her that Jared was having an affair overseas, shown her forged documents saying his deployment was extended indefinitely. By the time she realized something was wrong, he'd already gotten her to sign power of attorney documents, establish joint accounts, take out credit cards in both their names. The manipulation was textbook, the execution professional. There are others, Charlene said. He mentioned them once, when he was drunk. Said I was his 4th successful extraction. Bragged about it. Said he had a whole system, a whole team. There's a lawyer, Roosevelt Serrano, who handles all the paperwork. An accountant, Stacy Colon, who moves the money. And someone he called the recruiter, who finds the marks, the wives. Names are a start, Jared said, taking notes. What else? He keeps everything on his laptop. Never lets it out of his sight. Encrypted, password protected, the works. But I saw him enter the password once. It's Alpha, Actual, 2244. Military terminology. Whoever Cletus really was, he had military knowledge. Good. That's good. Anything else? Any meetings, any patterns? He goes to a bar every Friday. Buck's Roadhouse on Highway 87. Meets with people there. I don't know who. He never let me come. The phone beeped. Low battery. Charlene, I need a way to reach you. You can't. I'll call you when I can. Jared, her voice broke again. I'm so sorry. For all of this. I was weak, and I let him. You're not weak, Jared said firmly. You're a survivor. And we're going to fix this. Together. I promise you. I love you. I love you too. Stay safe. The line went dead. Jared sat in the storage unit, surrounded by the wreckage of his old life, and began to plan. Chapter 4. Reconnaissance. Buck's Roadhouse was exactly the kind of place Jared expected. Neon beer signs in the windows, a gravel parking lot full of trucks and motorcycles, country music leaking through the weathered walls. The kind of bar where everyone minded their own business until someone started trouble. It was Thursday night, not Friday, but Jared wasn't there to confront Cletus. Not yet. He was there to learn. He'd spent the last 3 days working through his contacts. The army didn't just teach you how to shoot, it taught you how to network. Jared had served with men from across the country, men who went into law enforcement, private security, government agencies. Men who owed him favors. Lincoln Watkins, who'd been in his platoon in Helmand Province, now worked for the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. He'd agreed to look into Cletus Watts's financial history, off the books, as a personal favor. Brady Walls, a Marine he'd trained with at Fort Benning, was now a PI in Charlotte. He'd started pulling together background information on Roosevelt Serrano and Stacy Colon. And Archie Solomon, a special forces operator Jared had pulled out of a kill zone near Kandahar, had connections in places Jared didn't ask about. He'd agreed to look into whether there was any leak at Fort Bragg, any insider feeding information to criminals. But intelligence gathering took time, and Jared needed to move faster, which meant old-fashioned surveillance. He sat in Matty Gordon's borrowed car. His own truck had been sold by Cletus, apparently, 3 spaces away from the matte black Ram 2500, and watched. Cletus arrived at 2100, loud and predictable, parking diagonally across 2 spaces like the rules didn't apply to him. He swaggered into the bar, fist-bumped the bouncer, disappeared inside. Jared waited. At 2130, a Mercedes sedan pulled up. Expensive, black, tinted windows. A man in a suit got out, mid-40s, Hispanic, carrying a briefcase. He moved with the careful precision of someone used to being watched. Roosevelt Serrano, Jared guessed. The lawyer. At 2145, an Audi. A woman this time, blonde, professional-looking, carrying a tablet. Stacy Colon, probably. The accountant. And at 2200, the one that interested Jared most, a Ford F-150, work truck, nothing fancy. The driver was a woman in her 30s, attractive but worn-looking, nervous in her movements. She sat in the truck for 5 minutes before getting out, checking her phone repeatedly. Jared took photos of all of them. At 2300, they started leaving. The lawyer first, then the accountant. Cletus came out at 2315, laughing, drunk, getting into his truck. The woman in the F-150 left last, looking worse than when she'd arrived. Jared started Maddie's car and followed her. She led him to a duplex on the south side of town, parked in the driveway, sat in her truck for 10 minutes before finally going inside. Jared wrote down the address, ran the plates through a contact at the DMV. Kelly McBride, age 34, married to specialist Luke Berry, currently deployed to Kuwait. Another military wife. Jared sat outside her house until his phone buzzed. Lincoln Watkins, calling from a secure line. You sitting down? Lincoln asked. Tell me. Cletus Watts isn't his real name. That much we figured. But it took some digging to find out who he really is. Brandon Molina, former Army. Dishonorable discharge 8 years ago for fraud and larceny. Did time at Leavenworth. Got out 4 years ago. Dropped off the radar. What was he doing in the Army? Finance. He was a goddamn finance clerk, Jared. Had access to personnel records, pay information, all of it. The fraud he got caught for? Stealing from soldiers' accounts. But that was just what they could prove. My contact at CID says they suspected he was part of something bigger, but couldn't make it stick. How much are we talking? Officially? 30,000 from 6 soldiers. Unofficially? Could be millions. The investigation got shut down. Political pressure. Someone upstairs didn't want the scandal. Molina took the fall, did his time, and everyone was happy to forget about it. Until he got out and started doing it again. Looks that way. I pulled his associates from his time in Leavenworth. Guess who he was cellmates with? Tell me. Roosevelt Serrano. Disbarred lawyer from Virginia. Did time for witness tampering and fraud. And Stacy Colon was on the accounting team that got investigated for helping both of them hide money. She got immunity, flipped on them, then apparently got back in business after they got out. So we're dealing with a team of professionals. More than that, I found patterns, Jared. Over the last 4 years, there have been at least 9 cases of military spouses reporting identity theft, financial fraud, and domestic control situations that sound exactly like what happened to Charlene. Different states, different bases, but the same MO. And in every case, the spouse recanted their complaint, the case got dropped, and everyone moved on. They're being threatened, or paid off, or both. But here's the thing. Those are just the ones who reported it. How many didn't? How many cases are out there that never made it to the authorities? Jared thought of the woman in the F-150. Kelly McBride, alone in that duplex, her husband deployed, probably thinking she had no one to turn to. I need everything you have on those 9 cases, Jared said. Names, locations, current status. Already sending it. Jared, you're not planning to do anything stupid, are you? Define stupid. Anything that'll get you arrested. Or killed. Because these people have lawyers, money, and a system that's been working for years. You go at them the wrong way, they'll bury you in litigation and criminal charges faster than you can blink. I'm not going at them the wrong way, Jared said. I'm going at them the right way. Which is the Army way. He hung up and looked at Kelly McBride's duplex. One light was on in an upstairs window. A shadow moved past, pacing. Jared got out of the car. Chapter 5, Recruitment. Kelly McBride answered the door with a baseball bat in her hands. Who the hell are you? She was smaller than she'd looked from a distance, maybe 5'4", but there was steel in her voice. You have 10 seconds to tell me why I shouldn't call 911 and crack your skull open. Jared kept his hands visible, non-threatening. My name's Jared Johnston. My wife is Charlene Johnston. I think we're in the same situation. The bat lowered slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. Cletus Watts. Or Brandon Molina, whatever he's calling himself these days. He's got his hooks into your life, doesn't he? Started friendly, helpful. Now he owns you. Kelly's face went white. You need to leave. Right now. I followed you from Buck's Roadhouse. I saw you meet with him, with the lawyer, with the accountant. I know what they're doing to you. And I know you feel like there's no way out. You don't know anything. But her voice shook. Your husband's Luke Berry, deployed to Kuwait. You've been married 6 years. You have a daughter, 8 years old, staying with your mother right now because you're afraid to have her in the house. Cletus came into your life about 18 months ago, said he was a friend of your husband's unit, offered to help with repairs. And now he owns your house, your bank accounts, and he's holding something over your head to keep you quiet. Tears streamed down Kelly's face. How do you? Because he did the exact same thing to my wife. And according to my sources, he's done it to at least 9 other women. Probably more. If I talk to you, he'll... She couldn't finish the sentence. He'll what? Take your house? He already has it. Take your money? Already gone. Hurt you? That's what we're going to prevent. You don't understand. He has pictures. Of me. Things he made me do. He said if I went to the police, he'd send them to my husband, to my family, to everyone. He said he'd ruin me. Jared kept his voice gentle. Those pictures are digital, right? On his laptop. How did you? Same thing you did to my wife. Different leverage, same method. He's got a system. But systems have weaknesses. Kelly studied him, the bat still half raised. What do you want? Information. Cooperation. And when the time comes, testimony. He'll kill me. He'll try. But I spent 8 years in Afghanistan dealing with people who wanted to kill me. I'm pretty good at not dying. She almost smiled at that. Then the smile died. Even if I help you, even if we somehow get him, the others, Roosevelt, Stacy, whoever else is part of this, they'll just keep going. Not if we take them all down at once. How? By doing what I was trained to do, plan, adapt, and execute. But I need your help. I need the help of everyone they've hurt. Because the thing about predators like Cletus is that they rely on their victims staying isolated, staying scared, staying silent. The moment we stop being victims and become an army. Jared let that hang in the air. They don't stand a chance. Kelly was quiet for a long moment. Then she lowered the bat. Come inside. But if this is a trick, if you're working with him. If I was working with him, I'd already know everything about you. I'm here because I want to end him. She opened the door wider. Inside, the duplex was sparse. Minimal furniture, boxes still unpacked, the look of someone who'd stopped investing in permanence. Kelly pointed to a couch, sat in a chair across from it, the bat within reach. His real name is Brandon Molina, Jared said. Former Army finance clerk, dishonorable discharge, did time at Leavenworth. He's working with at least 2 accomplices, probably more. They target military wives, isolate them, steal their identities and assets, then move on. You're not his first. You won't be his last unless we stop him. I tried to stop him, Kelly said quietly. 3 months ago, I went to the police. Showed them the fraudulent documents, the power of attorney I never actually signed. You know what happened? Roosevelt showed up with a notarized copy of the power of attorney with my signature, my ID, everything. Said I was mentally unstable, going through a breakdown from my husband's deployment. The police believed him. Did you actually sign it? I signed something. He said it was for a home refinancing loan. I was stupid. I trusted him. You weren't stupid. You were targeted by a professional. Kelly pulled out her phone, scrolled through photos. These are the ones he didn't take. I hid my phone, made copies before he realized. It's not much, but the photos showed Cletus with other people, meeting in parks, in cars, outside office buildings. In one, he was with a woman Jared didn't recognize, mid-50s, severe-looking, wearing a real estate agent's blazer. Who's that? I don't know, but I've seen her before. She was at my house once, taking measurements, taking photos. Cletus said she was an inspector, but I looked her up later. Pearl Parks, real estate agent. She specializes in military family properties. The recruiter, Jared said, remembering what Charlene had mentioned. She finds the targets. Kelly nodded. There's more. I kept a list. Every time Cletus mentioned a name, a place, anything, I wrote it down. She handed him a notebook, pages filled with cramped handwriting. I don't know if it helps, but it helps. Jared flipped through it. Names, dates, locations. It was a goldmine of intelligence. You did good, Kelly. Real good. What happens now? Now we find the others. Everyone they've hurt. We coordinate, we gather evidence, and we strike together. Not just at Cletus, but at the whole operation. And then they face justice. One way or another. Kelly looked at him for a long moment. You're not talking about the legal system, are you? I'm talking about whatever works. Good, she said. Because the legal system failed me once already. Chapter 6. The Network. Over the next week, Jared became a ghost. He moved between borrowed cars, burner phones, and the spare rooms of people who owed him favors. He used every skill the Army had taught him, surveillance, intelligence gathering, strategic planning. But this time the mission was personal. Brady Walls, the PI from Charlotte, came through first. He'd located 3 of the 9 women from Lincoln's list, all within a 4-hour radius. Each had the same story, a helpful stranger, a whirlwind of manipulation, and a financial catastrophe they were too ashamed to talk about. Jared met each of them. First was Gracie Mills, whose husband Tyrone Blackwell was deployed to Germany. She lived in a trailer park outside Fayetteville, working 2 jobs to pay off debts she didn't incur. Cletus had stolen $40,000 from her account, taken out credit cards in her name, and left her with a destroyed credit score and a marriage on the brink. Then Hillary Conway, married to Fermin York, deployed to Japan. Her story was darker. Cletus had not only stolen her money but had assaulted her, using the threat of exposing their affair to keep her quiet. She tried to kill herself 6 months ago. The hospital records showed the attempt. The police report showed nothing. Finally, Daphne Schneider, whose husband Gustavo Riddle had died in Iraq 3 years ago. Cletus had appeared at her doorstep 2 weeks after the funeral, claiming to be a brother-in-arms of her late husband. By the time she realized what was happening, he'd emptied her widow's benefits and sold her house out from under her. Each woman had been isolated, ashamed, convinced they were alone in their suffering. You're not alone, Jared told them, and we're going to make this right. They met in a church basement in Spring Lake, a place Maddie Gordon had arranged. 7 women total. Charlene had agreed to join via video call from wherever she was hiding. They sat in a circle, their stories pouring out in waves of anger, grief, and finally, determination. They're still doing it, Gracie said. I've seen Cletus around town with another woman. Younger, scared looking. Her husband's deployed to the Middle East. Tammy Jefferson, Kelly said. I know her from the support group. She mentioned a helpful friend who was fixing her roof. We need to warn her, Hillary said. We will, Jared said. But first, we need to understand the full scope of their operation. He spread out the intelligence he'd gathered, photos, financial records, a network chart showing the connections between Cletus, Roosevelt, Stacy, Pearl, and several others they'd identified. This isn't just 3 or 4 people. This is organized crime. They have systems in place to launder money, falsify documents, intimidate victims. Taking down just Cletus won't stop it. So what do? Daphne asked. We do what they don't expect. We turn their system against them. They rely on isolation, on victims staying quiet. We're going to coordinate. We're going to document everything. And when we strike all at once, so hard they can't recover. Archie Solomon, watching from the back of the room where he'd been providing security, spoke up. You need bait. Everyone turned to look at him. You need someone to go inside. Archie continued. Someone they don't know? Someone who can get close to Cletus, gather the evidence you need. Someone who's not a victim yet. That's too dangerous, Kelly said. Everything about this is dangerous, Archie replied. But it's the only way to get what you need. Access to that laptop, to their files, to their operation. You need an inside man. Or inside woman, said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned. Standing there was a woman in her late 50s, gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. She looked like someone's grandmother, soft and harmless. She was neither. Maddie, Jared said. Maddie Gordon walked into the room, her face set with determination. I've been watching this play out for 2 years. Watching that piece of shit destroy my neighbor's life, destroy all your lives. And I did nothing because I didn't know what to do. But I know what to do now. Maddie, you can't. I can and I will. I'm old, I'm harmless looking, and I own property. I fit their target demographic perfectly. I lost my husband 5 years ago, military veteran, Purple Heart, the whole package. They'll see me as easy prey. They'll be right, Jared said. These people are dangerous. So am I. Maddie's smile was sharp. You kids don't know this, but before I was a postal worker, I was a civil rights attorney in the 70s. I've faced down the Klan, dirty cops, and federal prosecutors. I'm not afraid of some 2-bit con man. The room was silent. I can get close, Maddie continued. I can be the sweet old lady who needs help with her house, who's lonely and vulnerable. I can wear a wire. I can get your evidence. And when the time comes, I can testify in court or anywhere else you need me. Jared looked at Archie, who shrugged. It's not a bad plan. It's a terrible plan, Jared said. But it might be our only option. Then let's do it, Maddie said. Chapter 7. The Trap. The trap took 3 weeks to set. Maddie accidentally encountered Pearl Parks at a grocery store, mentioned she was thinking of downsizing, needed help managing her late husband's estate. Pearl gave her a card, all smiles and sympathy. Within days, Cletus appeared at Maddie's door, all charm and helpfulness. He fixed her leaky faucet, replaced a broken porch step, earned her trust with small kindnesses. Maddie played her part perfectly, the lonely widow, grateful for the attention, just naive enough to believe his stories about being a veteran, about wanting to help military families. Meanwhile, Jared coordinated with the others. Lincoln Watkins got approval from his FBI supervisor to launch an official investigation, though he kept Jared's involvement quiet. Brady Walls installed hidden cameras in Maddie's house, set up surveillance on Cletus's truck, tracked his movements. Archie Solomon reached out to his contacts in the military police, people who remembered the original investigation into Brandon Molina and wanted to see it finished. The women gathered evidence, financial records, forged documents, recordings of threatening phone calls. Every piece of the puzzle coming together. And then, on a Friday night, Cletus invited Maddie to Buck's Roadhouse. I want to introduce you to some people, he said. People who can help you manage your estate. Make sure you're taken care of. Maddie wore a wire. Jared, Archie, and Brady were in the parking lot in 3 separate vehicles, watching, listening, ready to intervene if things went wrong. Inside the bar, Maddie met Roosevelt Serrano and Stacy Colon. They were smooth, professional, presenting themselves as legitimate financial advisors. They talked about trusts and investments, about protecting her assets, about how they could help her navigate the complexities of estate planning. And slowly, carefully, they began to set the hook. The first step, Roosevelt said, sliding papers across the table, is establishing power of attorney. Just a precaution, in case of any health issues. This way, someone you trust, like Cletus here, can manage your affairs if needed. Maddie hesitated, playing the part. I don't know. It's completely standard, Stacy assured her. We do this for all our clients. Let me think about it, Maddie said. Cletus's face darkened, just for a moment. Then the smile returned. Of course. Take your time. But Maddie, he leaned in, his voice dropping. You don't have much time. At your age, things can change fast. You want to make sure everything's in order, right? The threat was subtle but clear. Maddie left the meeting with the unsigned papers, promised to think it over. The moment she got in her car, she drove to the church where the others were waiting. Got it all, she said, handing over the wire. Every word. The implied threats, the fraud setup, everything. Jared listened to the recording 3 times. It was good, but it wasn't enough. They needed the laptop, the files, the full scope of the operation. We need to accelerate, he said. Maddie, you're going to sign those papers. What? You're going to let them think they've won. But we're going to know every move they make. When they transfer your money, we'll track it. When they falsify documents, we'll have copies. And when they think they're safe, when they think they've gotten away with it. Jared looked around the room at the faces of the women Cletus had hurt. We'll have them. What if they try to hurt Maddie before then? Kelly asked. They won't. Not until they've bled her dry. That's their pattern. They're patient predators. They'll take months to drain her accounts, sell her property, make it all look legitimate. That gives us time. Time for what? Gracie asked. Time to find the others. The people they haven't caught yet. Time to build a case so airtight they'll never see daylight again. And time. Jared pulled up a photo on his laptop, the one of Tammy Jefferson. To save the women they're targeting right now. The next phase began immediately. Archie Solomon made contact with Tammy Jefferson, explained who Cletus really was, what he was planning. She broke down, terrified, but agreed to help. She would continue her interactions with Cletus, but now she'd be documenting everything, wearing a wire, gathering evidence. Lincoln Watkins brought in 2 more FBI agents, ones he trusted completely. They began coordinating with local police, district attorneys, preparing for the largest identity theft and fraud bust North Carolina had seen in years. And Jared? Jared did what he did best. He planned the assault. We're going to hit them at Buck's Roadhouse, he told the group during their final planning meeting. 2 weeks from now, they have a meeting. Cletus told Maddie about it. All the major players will be there. Roosevelt, Stacy, Pearl, and 2 others we haven't fully identified yet. They're celebrating a big score. The score being Maddie, she said dryly. Exactly. They think they've just stolen $200,000 from you. Money we're tracking through multiple accounts. They'll be drunk, sloppy, confident. That's when the FBI moves in. Simultaneous raids on Buck's Roadhouse, on Cletus's house, on Roosevelt's office, on Stacy's apartment. We're taking everything, computers, files, phones, all of it. What about the women they've already hurt? Hillary asked. Will we get our money back? Lincoln says the FBI has asset forfeiture teams ready to go. Every penny they stole, they're going to try to recover. It won't be immediate, but you'll get restitution. And if the FBI doesn't move? Daphne asked quietly. If somehow this falls apart, if they get away? Jared's expression hardened. Then we go to Plan B, which is something the military taught me about dealing with problems that won't go away through proper channels. No one asked for clarification. They didn't need to. Chapter 8, Convergence. The night of the raid arrived cold and clear. Jared sat in an unmarked van with Lincoln Watkins and 4 other FBI agents, parked 3 blocks from Buck's Roadhouse. Through the surveillance equipment, they could see inside the bar, Cletus holding court at a large table, Roosevelt and Stacy flanking him, Pearl and 2 other men Jared didn't recognize laughing and drinking. On the table between them was Maddie's $200,000. Laundered through 3 shell companies and deposited into an account in the Cayman Islands. They thought they'd gotten away with it. They had no idea that every transaction had been monitored, that every account was flagged, that an army of federal agents was closing in. All units in position, Lincoln said into his radio. We go on my mark. Jared watched the screens. In another vehicle, Archie Solomon monitored Cletus's house, where a second team was ready to execute a search warrant. In a third location, Brady Walls coordinated with local police, ready to secure the scene. And in Maddie Gordon's living room, protected by 2 agents, the women waited. Kelly, Gracie, Hillary, Daphne, and 4 others they'd found in the last 2 weeks. all of them ready to give statements, to testify, to finally have their voices heard. "Sir," one of the agents said, "we have a problem." Jared's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Additional vehicle just pulled up to the roadhouse. Black Suburban, government plates. Someone's getting out." The screen showed a man in a suit, moving with the confidence of authority. He walked into the bar, straight to Cletus's table. "You recognize him?" Lincoln asked. Jared leaned forward, studying the man's face. "Something familiar about him, something." "Oh hell," he said. "That's Colonel Tyrell Patterson. He was the CO at Fort Bragg Finance Office 8 years ago. He was in charge during the investigation into Brandon Molina." "The investigation that got shut down?" "The same." Lincoln swore. "He's dirty. He's part of this." That changed everything. A colonel had access to classified information, to military databases, to personnel files. That's how they'd gotten the intelligence on deployed soldiers, how they'd known which wives to target. "We need to move now," Jared said, "before Patterson warns them. We don't have warrants for the colonel. He's meeting with known criminals in the commission of a crime. That's probable cause. We move now, or we lose them all." Lincoln looked at Jared, then at his team. "All units, this is Watkins. We're going now. I repeat, all units execute." The world exploded into motion. FBI agents swarmed Buck's Roadhouse from 3 entrances. Local police blocked the exits. Through the surveillance feed, Jared watched as Cletus stood, reaching for a weapon, then stopped when he saw the tactical rifles pointed at his chest. Roosevelt tried to run, made it 5 feet before an agent tackled him. Stacy Colon just sat there, hands in the air, calculating her next move. And Colonel Patterson? He tried to pull rank, started yelling about authority and jurisdiction, until Lincoln Watkins shoved a badge in his face and told him he was under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and unauthorized disclosure of classified information. The second team hit Cletus's house at the same moment. They found the laptop, the files, everything Charlene had told Jared about. Years of documentation, victim lists, financial records, enough evidence to put everyone away for decades. But they also found something else. "Jared," Archie's voice crackled over the radio. "You need to see this. There's a woman here, locked in the basement. Jesus, Jared, she's in bad shape." Jared was out of the van before Lincoln could stop him. He ran the 3 blocks to Cletus's house, his dress shoes slipping on ice, his breath coming in white clouds. The house was chaos, agents everywhere, evidence bags, cameras flashing. Archie met him at the basement door. "It's not Charlene," he said quickly, reading Jared's expression. "But it's someone." The basement was finished, furnished, looked like a normal living space. Except for the deadbolt on the outside of the door and the woman huddled on the couch, bruised and terrified. "Tammy Jefferson. He grabbed me 2 days ago," she whispered as paramedics wrapped her in blankets. "Said I'd been asking too many questions. Said he was going to teach me what happens to women who don't cooperate." Jared's hands clenched into fists. "You're safe now. He's never going to hurt anyone again." "There are others," Tammy said. "He said there were others. Women who didn't cooperate. He said he made them disappear." That was when Jared's phone rang. Unknown number. He stepped outside to answer. "Johnston, it's me." Charlene's voice, stronger than before. Is it over?" "It's over. They're in custody. All of them." A sob on the other end. "Thank God. Thank God." "Where are you?" "A women's shelter in Virginia. I've been here for 3 weeks. They helped me get a restraining order, helped me start the process of reclaiming my identity. I was so scared, Jared. So scared he'd find me. He's not going to hurt you ever again. I promise." "I saw the news. It's all over the news. FBI raid, multiple arrests, military corruption. They're calling you a hero." "I'm not a hero. I'm just a soldier who came home." "You're my hero," Charlene said softly. Can I come home?" Jared looked at the house, at what Cletus had made of their home. "Not here. Never here. But we'll find a new place. A better place. Together." "Together," she agreed. Chapter 9, Aftermath. 6 months later, Jared stood in the courtroom and watched as Brandon Molina, formerly known as Cletus Watts, was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. Roosevelt Serrano got 30 years. Stacy Colon, who'd cooperated extensively in exchange for a lighter sentence, got 10 years with possibility of parole. Pearl Parks got 20 years. And Colonel Tyrell Patterson, The man who'd betrayed his uniform and his fellow soldiers for money got life without parole. The military court-martial had been swift and brutal. The evidence was overwhelming. 13 women testified during the trials. 13 stories of manipulation, theft, and abuse. 13 voices that had been silenced, now speaking loud and clear. The FBI recovered over $7 million in stolen assets. Some of it went back to the victims. Some of it was seized as criminal proceeds. It wasn't everything. Some money was lost forever in offshore accounts and shell companies. But it was something. It was justice. Jared watched as the judge gavelled the final case closed, then walked out of the courthouse into the summer sunshine. Charlene was waiting on the steps, and for the first time in 8 years, she looked like herself again. Her hair was longer, her smile real, the shadows gone from her eyes. They'd bought a small house in Winston-Salem, away from Fort Bragg, away from the memories. Jared had left the army. 20 years had been enough, and he had a new mission now. He'd started a nonprofit with Maddie Gordon, helping military spouses identify and report fraud, providing resources and support. Kelly McBride had joined them as a full-time advocate. Her husband Luke had come home from Kuwait, and they were rebuilding their life together. Gracie Mills had gone back to school, studying law enforcement. She wanted to be a detective, she said. Wanted to help other people the way Jared had helped her. Hillary Conway was in therapy, working through trauma, but she was fighting. Every day, she was fighting. And Daphne Schneider had written a book about her experience, about all their experiences. It was being published in the fall, with all proceeds going to veteran support organizations. They were survivors. All of them. What now? Charlene asked, taking Jared's hand. Now. Jared looked at her, at the woman he'd married 12 years ago, the woman he'd fought for, the woman he'd come home to. Now we live. No more deployments. No more separation. Just us. Just us, she agreed. They walked to their car, passing news crews and reporters shouting questions. Jared ignored them all. He'd given his statement, told his story. Now he just wanted peace. But as they reached the parking lot, a woman approached them. Mid-30s, nervous, holding a folder. Mr. Johnston, she said. My name is Bianca Winters. My husband's deployed to South Korea. I think someone's stealing from me. And I didn't know who else to turn to. Jared looked at Charlene, who nodded. Tell me everything, he said. Because that was the thing about predators. There were always more of them. And someone had to stand against them. Someone had to fight for the people who couldn't fight for themselves. Jared had spent 8 years fighting overseas. Now he'd spend the rest of his life fighting here at home, for the people who deserved protection, who deserved justice, who deserved to be heard. He was a soldier. That would never change. But now, finally, he was fighting the right war. Epilogue. 3 years after the trials, Jared stood in the driveway of a house in Tennessee, helping a young woman named Jean Webb load boxes into a moving truck. Her husband had just returned from deployment to find their finances destroyed, their home gone, their life in ruins. But Jared was there. His team was there. And together, they would rebuild. Because that was what soldiers did. They adapted. They overcame. They protected. And when necessary, they brought the war home. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.